Russian military operation in Syria has been underway for 15 months, and the results speak for themselves. Previously on the back foot, with its collapse considered imminent, the Syrian Army and its allies have gone on the offensive, and with Russian air support, have succeeded in retaking large areas of their country. An operation is now underway to retake the ancient city of Palmyra from Islamic State militants. The city has changed hands 3 times since 2014. Most recently, just a month ago, when Islamic State launched a surprise offensive while Syrian forces were heavily committed elsewhere. Our UAVs have located an ammunition dump in a compound north of the city, and Command has tasked a flight of 2 Su-25s with its destruction. Welcome to Khmeimim Air Base in Syria, and welcome aboard my Su-25. As alluded to in the intro, today's mission is a strike on an Islamic State ammunition dump in the desert north of Palmyra. Let's get our taxi clearance and we can get going. Alright, taxi runway 17. And I've discovered through experience that on this field, when ATC says runway 17, they mean 17 left. DCS ATC is still definitely not all that it could be, especially when it comes to land airfields. It's pretty good for the carriers now, but that's kind of outside the scope of what I'm doing here. So it will be right up here, then we'll cross 17 right and make our way over to 17 left. So it's Bravo 1 here. This is a relatively simple mission that I put together myself, which offers the advantage of being able to make whatever I like, offers the disadvantage that I know what's going to happen, so it's pretty difficult to surprise myself, but whatever. So we'll just check clear left and clear right and cross runway 17 right. There we go. And we'll hold short of 17 left and call for takeoff clearance. Well, we're waiting. I won't wait too long. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Sorry, Khmeimim Tower. Sometimes I have also noticed that on this airport, ATC doesn't always quite have its poop in a group when it comes to issuing takeoff clearance from the hold short point, so we'll see what we can do. I'll call for it again now that we're lined up and see what they do for us. Now then, okay, well, we're gonna go. Holding the brakes, full power. Let's boogie. Off the brakes. And off we go. I'm so sorry. Airspeed's alive. There you go. Woke up and smelled the coffee. 250 or so, we can ease the stick back. And once we're in the air, we'll tap the brakes, stop the wheels spinning, and bring gear up, flaps to half. Get some speed going, and flaps can come the rest of the way up, and we'll trim for a climb at about 500 or so. And we will make a right turn towards waypoint 1. I have tried to set up this mission in accordance with the information that I've been able to find about the standard operating procedures of the Russian Air Force in Syria, but there isn't that much information on the actual details. But one thing I was able to find is that after taking off from Khmeimim, they do fly out over the Mediterranean to climb to altitude just to keep the SAM threat to an absolute bare minimum. Ooh, overshot just a little bit there, so we'll come back around. And the other things, basically, that I was able to find out was that they operate pretty much with an established hard deck that they don't go below, at least for navigation, which is probably at about 4,000 meters, but I wasn't able to find anything out for certain on that subject. There's a great deal of emphasis placed on avoiding threats from shoulder-launched SAMs, because presumably there are quite a lot of them around to potentially be shooting. And to that effect, when unguided weapons are employed, which they are most of the time, like we've got 4 heavy S-24B rockets here, they're fired from maximum range and in a fairly steep dive to maximize the standoff range that can be gotten out of them. It seems that precision-guided munitions are generally reserved for either high-value or high-risk, and/or high-risk targets, when it's both very important to ensure a hit and to minimize one's own risk from ground fire. So I'm going to climb to 6,000 meters for the route out to Palmyra and try and stay as high as I can during my attack runs in accordance with that. Now, the Su-25 that I'm flying here is the Su-25A, so basically a Soviet-era spec one, which just has the optical gun sight and laser rangefinder in the nose. Now, the Su-25s that have been operating in Syria are Su-25 SM-3s with upgraded avionics. They have an MFD, in which I may use the F-10 map, for which I may use the F-10 map as a substitute for that navigation display and data link and everything that the SM-3 has. It also has a nose-mounted FLIR and some other fun stuff. And also the SVP-24 navigation and bomb aiming system, which is supposed to offer accurate firing solutions for unguided bombs and rockets from higher altitudes and greater distances than the basic laser designator we have in this airplane. So it's a distinct possibility that the real ones are capable of firing accurately from longer ranges than we are, and therefore minimizing their own risk to ground fire to a greater degree than I will be able to. But in-game, at least, the gun sight with the laser rangefinder in the nose is actually very accurate, so it should be adequate for our purposes. Anyway, that's passing waypoint 1, so we'll turn back inland and then level off at 6,000 meters. Oop, I'm overcooking it with the rudder a little bit here. Su-25 needs a little bit of rudder to stay coordinated in turns, not a lot. Let's see, can we see Cyprus out there? Which way is it? I don't think so. And keep coming around. We will level off at 6,000 meters. And try and maintain a reasonably efficient speed, because we do have a long way to go. And it's sort of getting a little bit towards the outer limits of the combat radius of the Su-25. And I blew through our altitude just a little bit there. No biggie. Unfortunately, and this is the case for a lot of DCS aircraft, but particularly the Flaming Cliffs ones like this, is the manuals are a little bit short on information about, well, short on things like performance tables that could give you information on how to, for example, get the best range out of your aircraft at a given altitude and weight, that sort of thing. So I kind of have to make an educated guess as to what that might be based on altitude, configuration, angle of attack, and airspeed, and try and save as much fuel as I can, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Anyway, is my wingman in position yet? Possibly not quite. But at any rate, we've got a fairly long trip ahead of us, so I will probably come back when we're a little nearer the target. Alright, I believe I have the target compound in sight. I'm pretty sure it's that one right between our forward two antennae there. That would correlate with my navigation instrument here, since waypoint 1 is placed, or correction, waypoint 2 is placed directly on the compound, and it looks like the right shape from the reconnaissance photo. So I'll peel out to one side a little bit just so I can keep eyes on it, and I set up an F10 radio option, or radio menu option to report the target in sight. I'll do that once I'm a little closer and I'm absolutely certain of what I'm looking at. So let's see, should be one large building in a sort of L-shaped compound, and that's definitely it. Okay. And the target building is the big one on the east end. So, again, get just a little bit closer so we can get a real good picture. The city of Palmyra is where? He says. Over there, I think. Yeah, there it is. And you can possibly pick out the ancient fortress and citadel and all the landmarks that are around there, so our target is just a little ways north of it. Anyway, yeah, I see the building, and I see the trucks. Alright, I'll make my report then. Target in sight, visual on the building, 4 trucks parked on the west side. And command says, target confirmed, you're cleared to attack. And so we shall. But first, I will have my wingman do what? Hold position, so basically holding high cover. Because no point in both of us going in here for no particular reason. So, get our weapons set up. We've got rockets selected. And test the laser rangefinder. Should be working. Alright, let's roll in. Power to idle. Air brakes out. Because the Su-25 accelerates like crazy in a dive. And as we roll out, I'll turn the laser rangefinder on, which is giving us our range cue in the form of the thick outer part of the ring there. I'll start putting out flares, because there is very probably a manpads threat in the area. In range, fire, peel off, laser rangefinder off, power, flares. And building's been hit. Let's have a look. Big ol' explosion. Not surprising since it was an ammunition dump. So, reporting primary target destroyed. Command says destroy vehicles with remaining weapons, then RTB. Alright. Yeah, I still see the trucks there, so I'll expend my remaining rockets on those on another pass. But first we're going to climb back up to 6,000 meters. Get above our hard deck as quickly as possible to minimize the SAM threat. Keep putting out periodic flares in case there's a SAM we don't see, because that'll always be the one that gets you. Alright. Yeah, huge column of smoke. Lots of ammunition cooking off down there. Good, good. I'll actually level off here so that I can make my next attack run down the length of the line of trucks a little bit more readily. And we'll trim it out a little bit because we're asymmetrical since I only fired one rocket at the building. And keep climbing as we turn back in. Don't let the speed bleed off too much. And we'll get ready. Another flare, just for the sake of for the sake of putting out flares. And pretty well set up again. So, power to idle, speed brakes out, roll in. Laser rangefinder on. And acquire target. Okay, I see the trucks. Let's see if we can get them all with one rocket. No point wasting ammunition if we don't need to. The Russian taxpayer does not have a bottomless purse. Flare coming out, range is unwinding. Rocket away. Speed brakes in, pull up, flares. Good effect by the look of it. Well, sound of it, we haven't seen it yet. Let's have a look. I see 2 trucks burning. Might not have destroyed all of them though. Alright, we'll climb up and make another run. And probably expend both of the remaining rockets on that run, just so we're not making any more attack runs than we need to. Flare. Flare. Got plenty of flares, so don't spare the flares. Alright, above 4,000 should put us out of immediate SAM risk. And I'll keep climbing this way so I can set us up for another attack run. It occurs that I'm following the same pattern for both of these attacks, which is generally not a good idea. Ideally I would come from another direction. I'll just have to bear that in mind as a lesson learned for next time, I suppose. Since I definitely intend to feature more missions in Syria in the future. Flare, because why not? A flare for the sake of your mother-in-law. And just keep my head on a swivel. But I think we're alright. Ooh, losing a little too much speed in the climb here. Let's ease it up a bit. We're pretty much up to 6,000 again anyway. Alright. I'll just keep the compound in sight down here, and we'll get ready to roll in. Ease off the power a bit. Alright, target in sight. Power to idle, speed brake out, rolling in. Rangefinder on, flare out. Because you never know. And I'll try and fire one at each end of the line of trucks just to be sure. Alright. Target acquired. Range is unwinding. Rocket away, power. Air brakes in, rangefinder off. Flares out. And couldn't really see the effect on target there, but I'll worry about our climb for now. Try and do a bit of a zoom climb back up to 4,000 here. Alright, now I'll have a look back. I see 4 columns of smoke. There are 4 trucks. I don't think there's anything left down there. I think we're good to return to base. So, I'll whack us back into, hang on, 1, 2, punch up waypoint 3. I'll go and collect my wingman. Flight rejoin formation. And we will make our way back to base. And we're back, just rolling out onto the approach to Khmeimim, which I've overshot a little bit, but never mind, we'll get lined up on 1.7 left. I'll throttle back to let the speed come back, then we'll get the gear and flaps out. And we'll see if I can do a vaguely respectable landing. I tend to not always do so well in the Su-25. I have a habit of knocking it on just a little bit, but we'll see how this goes. Alright, it's pretty much on the glide slope. Let that speed keep coming back. I will tell my wingman to RTB, or basically make his own landing, so that I don't have to worry about it. And just about lined up. Come back through 400, I'll get the gear out so that we can bleed a little more speed. And flaps to half for now. And come back 350, and I'll give her full flaps. Pretty much on the glide slope still, but we're going to balloon a lot as those flaps come down. Yeah, I can feel it already. We'll put our lights on. And slightly high on glide slope, let her down a bit, and let the speed keep bleeding off. Not too much though, probably at a vaguely respectable approach speed now. Slightly low on glide slope, ease it up a bit. Trim, trim, trim. Keep your speed up. Oh, quite low on glide slope, that's okay. We can land a little bit on the short side without any trouble here. Over the fence. And start the round out. Power, come back to idle, and that's pretty smooth. Alright, air brakes, parachute, and we'll stay off the brake. Is he going to keep doing that? Alright, I shut the radio off so we don't have to listen to him. I'm just going to look for the next taxiway. It might be right down at the end of the field here, actually, so we'll have to backtrack a little bit. And then we'll taxi back up to our revetment from which we started, shut down, and I would say call it a day, but historically, during this particular operation in January to March 2017, the aircrew at Khmeimim were very busy indeed, often flying 3 sorties per day, so there's a distinct possibility they'd be sending us up again. But it'll be it for the video anyway. So we've got taxiway Golf up here. And I'm overcooking it a little bit here with the throttle. Just tap the brake to slow us down a little bit. And we will vacate. I'll bring the flaps up. And we're going to have to cross 17 right, stroke 35 left again before we can vacate completely, but that should be okay. We'll just make sure everything's clear and that my wingman is... he should land on the same runway I did, since it's the active one. And where's the next taxiway? A ways down. Alright, we'll be quick about it, so we'll clear the runway reasonably quickly. As you can see, not the most vast quantity of fuel left. Really quite came down to the wire on this one, which makes me a little bit curious, again, as to the sort of power settings and speeds would be best for getting maximum range out of the Su-25, and also makes me a bit curious about the fact that missions of that length have definitely been flown by actual Su-25s, although I believe the SM-3s have upgraded engines that are probably a little bit more efficient, so they can probably get a little bit more range out of them. But I have noticed from pictures and video of them in action that they do carry quite minimal weapons loads, like often just one S-13 rocket pod on each wing or something like that, which probably enables them to get quite a lot more range out of them. Because if you mount up an Su-25 with a big old rocket pod under each wing, or some heavy S-25s or anything like that, it's gonna get insanely draggy and probably reduce the range very considerably. Anyway, we will vacate onto taxiway Alpha here and make our way back towards the ramp. And there's the main terminal building. This used to be a civilian airport once upon a time, so that makes a bit of sense. And the tower. And we'll hang a left. And I believe I see the tails of some Su-34s peeking up over the wall there, but we can verify that in just a second. Yeah. And duck nose and forward-looking two-seat canopy, those are indeed Su-34s. Even if they're the slightly dodgy, older lock-on models, but never mind, we won't look at them too closely. And we'll taxi right up to the second empty revetment here, since that's where we started from, and we'll shut down in front of it, and trust that a plucky ground crew will come running out and push us back into position so that we're not blocking it for too long. And line up reasonably well there. And engines off. Open the lid. And that's going to be about it. So, I hope this mission has been at least vaguely interesting. It's, well, it was pretty low intensity, but that is the nature of things with these sorts of operations. So, if you'd like to see more of similar missions or anything else in the future, do feel free to let me know. But that is about it for now. Toodles.